Hey, and welcome to the Difference Maker Revolution podcast. And you have Steve, Brad, and Ronan this week. Janine has left us, lads. She's gone on vacation, or as we say, holiday this side of the pond. Imagine that. We thought Americans don't take vacation. What do you guys think of that?
Well, they get public holidays every so often, don't they?
Yeah.
Not too many, but, apparently it's a public holiday. Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
Memorial Day,
Veterans
Steve.
Day. Wow. Oh, Memorial Day. Oops.
You preached about that in the last meeting.
Well, she had to...
wrong. Memorial Day. So
she had to confuse
Day
us.
all the Americans listening. But you won't be listening.
It'll be a week behind.
No, you'll be listening. This is in the future, in the past, isn't it? So I hope you all have a wonderful Memorial Day.
Yes.
Well, it might be Veterans Day by then.
Right.
No, Veterans Day is in September. I think we have our Armistice Day, which is on the same day as the American Veterans Day. We just don't have a Memorial Day. Because you guys have Anzac Day, and I think that's the same day.
We do. Well, in Australia, it's going to be King's birthday soon. So do we get that in Ireland? Ronan?
just the Commonwealth.
I'm going to have to go to Belfast for the day.
Yes,
I think
you have to do that.
Straight back.
Just go to Belfast for the day and then come back.
All right. So we've had so many photographers say, I'm going to do a street carnival fair, or I'm going to do an expo, or I'm going to do a car boot sale, or whatever that might be. And the questions are, how do I do this? What should I do? And what's the primary goal? So, Brad, what's the primary goal when I do activities like this? Like, what should I be focused on achieving?
It's just nice getting outside, isn't it, Ronan? Get a bit of fresh air, a bit of sunshine, some vitamin D, change the environment.
Not vitamin?
you say vitamin.
It's a vitamin D, not vitamin D.
But no, I'm being silly again, which is probably, everyone's used to me being silly. But no, the primary goal of any marketing activity is to get bookings. Is to get people to raise their hand digitally or in person. Although if you had people raising their hand in person on a stand, I think that would be hilarious to watch. To get them to interested in your business or interested in having a conversation with you about them, creating a booking and then helping them transform their lives in whatever way you can, and then hopefully being rewarded for it at the end.
All right.
So yeah, it's all about marketing. It's all about getting bookings.
But we always say marketing is all about getting people to raise their hand, which is often is linked to lead generation, right? What we're saying now is that that's not the primary objective. The primary objective is to get the booking.
Well, yeah, but even in marketing, even in all the digital marketing, it's still all about getting bookings. We're interested in lead generation as one step. It's not the full thing. If we're just generating leads and doing nothing with them, what's the point in even generating leads? So all marketing's about getting bookings. The first step of marketing is just getting people to put their hands up.
So,
or rather, come to your stand, stop at your stand, engage with you, have a conversation.
Okay, so, what you're saying is, when I do these trade shows or expos, that I can jump to the booking maybe quicker than I can if it's a digital marketing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hasn't the lead generation been done for you by the expo organizers? So, when we're doing lead generation, we are casting the net out to try and attract people in for us to talk to. But when we're attending an expo, that's being done for us. And then depending upon the theme of the expo or sometimes the location of the expo, that's sort of where it's beginning to start to for us to decide whether our avatar, our market is going to be there. So I think from a digital marketing point of view, we're casting the net to try and draw people in. But when we're attending an expo, that part of it, we're leveraging off the expo organizers and all of their contacts, plus the other exhibitors' contacts, who hopefully have similar avatars to us, that are now all pulling together to bring an audience to our stand. So I think that's the difference. That's my
which is
concept.
terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's going to be a stampede heading right towards us, and we've got no option but to talk to them.
Or rather, the exact opposite. You as a business owner aren't in control. If Mr. Expo Man's in control and he's generating the leads to come to stand, because essentially you're right there, aren't you? I was just thinking that then, because I guess I think about all the expos we've done in the past, and essentially why we've pulled out of doing a lot of the really successful expos for us was just simply the footfall died. We went from being able to do a one-day event and get 60 bookings to doing the same one-day event and getting 17. And we had more team, more energy. We even had card machines, which is a funny thing saying we had a card machine on stand, because years ago when we were doing Expo, everything was cash. Then bringing a card machine to a stand, that was like a new innovative thing to do to get people to transact with you.
It was that one that you used to do the with, right?
Yeah, and just footfalls down. So it's interesting because it's both a benefit and not a benefit. And I suppose it's about creating a healthier marketing mix about how you want to do lead generation, because you're not in control of your own lead generation then. It's been outsourced by other people, and you're hoping they've done a really great job. And if they have, you're going to have really great footfall. If they haven't, then you have to work extra hard.
But I think this is where a lot of people fail, in they don't do the due diligence in researching those expos before they book them. A lot of people just book because it's an expo and believe that there will be the footfall and there is the right clients, but they're not doing any of the due diligence to make sure that this is going to be the right expo.
Okay, so let's say I have done my due diligence, right, or I've tested it and I have some ideas. So what you guys are saying is that the main goal of an expo is to get a booking, right? At the expo, right?
No.
At the expo.
No, you would never go for one booking.
No.
You would go
multiple bookings
book
at
loads.
the expo. I'm saying the main.
Let's not get that confused, Ronan.
What I'm trying to say is that it's not about just capturing people's details for follow-up later. It's about actually getting a booking in the calendar, in the diary, right? Because a lot of what we see talked about is that they think it's about generating just leads for follow-up afterwards, or as you said a little earlier, Steve, that it's a branding exercise, right? So I think it would be good just to talk a little bit through that it's not a branding exercise, and it's not about generating leads as the primary objective, that the primary objective is to actually get bookings.
Well, that's got to be the focus, because you're there anyway. This is the perfect time to have a captive audience where you can talk one-on-one with them. And so when we did them, we would take access to our calendar and physically make the booking, because if we were, and we did it both ways, we used to go and only try to generate leads, but that then meant we were swarmed. Well, we were hit by a tsunami when we got back, because we then had to try and contact everybody, try to remember the conversations that we had with those people that we really connected with. Whereas if we just brought out the calendar and said, great, let's book you in, we were getting people that were booking. And so, now is Expo season. And so people are out, people are about, they're looking for something to do. If you focus on getting a booking, then that's what will happen.
All right.
And that's the main thing. We were still getting leads, because those people that we almost booked, but in an expo, the one factor you've got in an expo is that two or three stalls away, there might be another photographer, or there might be something else that they want to spend their money on. And if you book a stand too close to the front, then almost everybody wants to wait till they get through the expo before they make a decision. So where you place yourself will have an effect on how many of those people are going to say, oh, I want to have a look around first and I'll come back. And I suppose it's no different to, stopping the scroll. But in this case, it's a physical other distraction that you're competing with, and there's lots of them. And so you want to try and get that booking. And if you don't, then you need that safety net under it, which is getting those leads.
So, having done many trade exhibitions, right? And I accept that we're probably not great at it, right? And we could certainly do a lot more improvements, because what you guys talked about, often we've been through, right? That we initially thought it was a branding exercise, and then we thought it was a lead generation exercise, and we've often in our business struggled to get an actual sale on the day, and that's probably our mentality. So I'm fascinated by this, not just for photographers, because I can see how photographers could come to the conclusion, because I've been through that journey, right, with our businesses. So but from my experience, one of the things I've always struggled to do, and maybe that's the owl part of me coming out, but understanding, so how much time do you give to somebody before, if you can't close them, but they just want to talk to you, they just, like, we have people when we go to America.
The eternal talker.
When we go to America, like, people, I've had people where I've talked to them on the booth for a while, right? And eventually they reveal that, I'm just here because I wanted to hear your accent. Like I've had people say that to me. So,
well, you've got to be less Irish.
I've got to be less Irish. But like, how?
We'll use that to attract them, then turn it off later on.
So how do we? We've spent all this money to be there, right, at the booth, as a photographer, and we've hired the space, and we're hoping that the people come through, that the exhibitor organizer has done their job, right, and has brought people who are ideal clients after we've done our analysis that we believe is the right place to be as a photographer. So we've done all that, but how do I manage the conversations to get to as early as possible whether they're going to book or not? How did you manage that?
So there's a couple of things you brought up there, Ronan. The eternal talker, the one that's just there to hear your accent, they're a necessary part of this, a necessary function of how this works, because nobody wants what nobody wants. And so if your stand looks empty, people are very hesitant to stop. And so those people are really important, because they help your stand look busy. And so I used to run 3 people on my stand, and one person's goal was to attract exactly that person you talked about, the eternal talker who kind of lonely, just wants someone to talk to, probably isn't going to book, but they're our bait. They're the people, they're the ones that keep the stand looking busy and make it safe for other people to come and approach the stand. Have you ever noticed how, the restaurant that has no people in it, there's never any people in it, and then the restaurant that is full of people buzzing with energy, people are queuing up? It's the same thing on these expo stands. So if we can create an energy and hold some of those people on, those people that are coming in behind that person you're talking about, they're the ones that are likely to book. So having that second person that's going to come around and talk to them, your job, Ronan, in that case, would be to hold that person on the stand. That then attracts the people behind them, and then you've got to have that second person that's going to come around and book those people.
So, Brad, what do you think, like, about the organizing of the team? Like, a lot of photographers are solopreneurs, right? So how do I, if I'm a solopreneur, like, how do I manage to have somebody who's going to manage to talk, or for the second person to come and do, get the booking for the third person to get them in the calendar or the diary. Like, how do I do that as a solopreneur, and often I'm relying on family, to help me out and stuff. Like, what do I do?
You don't want family.
I'd say you get help. It's funny because I'm thinking of my first real experiences of expos, and my first experience of expos was my parents waking me up at like 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning because they'd already packed the van. I didn't even have to pack the van because they'd hired a van to take down to this expo to carry everything, and all my job was to drive down with them because Ruth, my girlfriend at the time, was helping them set the stand up. I wasn't allowed to help set the stand up. I was just there for helping unpack. So I would drive down, help unpack. So there'd be me, my mum, my dad, my girlfriend Ruth, my now wife, and maybe one of our makeup artists, or a couple of our makeup artists at the time, building this stand. And then I would leave the team and wave them all goodbye. Because they did not want me on the stand. and then I would drive home and go back. I'd get home for like 8 a.m. So they were my first ever experiences with stands, but I suppose to answer your question in particular is get help, even unwilling help, which I was. I was the unwilling help to help unload a van, to help build a stand. Well, I observed them build the stand. I wasn't allowed to actually partake and help because, I'd have destroyed it instead of helping it. But skill sets. My skill set isn't in the best things I build is Lego. But yeah, no. I suppose to answer your question better is if you're a solopreneur and you're running an expo, to echo what Steve said earlier, is do your due diligence. So know that, is this expo, you're going to have 500 people on there. And it's okay just to have a table, a few products, and you can have conversations with people easily. Or is it an expo where 30,000 people are going to rock up? Because there's completely different expectations for both. So if you are a solopreneur, maybe cut your teeth on doing stuff that is lower scale so that you can actually have those conversations. You have time to actually get in front of people, and you don't feel incredibly overwhelmed by not having all the gear and not being able to do anything with it. So, in some cases, less is more. And then when you want to do those bigger stands, you will more than likely need help. So, it all comes down to footfall. The more people there, the more help you're going to need. Busy creates busy. You need to be able to do that. And some of the most. So it's a funny thing because we would do stands, at expos. We used to do one called the I Do. It used to be a wedding show, and we'd go and be advertised for boudoir photography. We were like the only boudoir photographer there. There was a sea of wedding photographers, so it was easy pickings for us. And they'd do about 4 of those shows a year. We might do 2 of them just for location. But then what we'd also do, or what I set up was. They were much larger expos. And then quite randomly, I ran an ad on Indeed to try and find somebody to run a stand for me. And I met a wonderful man named John. And then I would just arm John with a couple of albums on a Saturday afternoon at local village fairs. And he would go and he would interact with people and sell vouchers, and whatever he sold, he kept. And we'd probably do about 3 vouchers a week, but it was consistent. So you've got your large footfall events, which you need to be focused on and to deliver a result. And you had those consistent things where I was really happy with my cost per lead, my cost per booking on that, because I was paying him at the time like £10 an hour to sit on the stand for 6 hours, and he kept whatever he kept or whatever he sold. And then those stands were like £20. To literally go and book it, with like little village fair things with a few hundred people, but you still get volume, and if you're consistent with it, you can still get a result. So you don't just have to do the huge things and invest loads of money and loads of time into doing it. Sometimes just the small ones help. And I suppose when you're at a scale or a size in your business, when you either spend money to market or you can spend time, and in those instances, that's where you can spend time. and actually get a return on it. And for all the UK people, the website that I used to go was called Stall Finder. It's like something from like the late 90s. It's not been updated in years, but it works wonderfully. So Stall Finder is a really great website to find local, small village fairs, church fairs that you'll be able to find if your ideal client avatar goes there, and you can go and market to them. And
usually
you're the only photographer there.
Your local council tends to have a list of ones that are council run too, and they're very cheap to do too. Similar sort of situation.
All right. So let's say I'm a Formula One or I'm a NASDAQ driver, right? So I am the absolutely best of best at trade shows, right? Like I'm really, really good at it.
This is a bad question.
I know I can be better, right? But I have this problem on occasion where the stand goes quiet, right? What would you do, Steve? What would be your advice to, I can't say that bad word on a podcast. I've got my stuff together, right? I was going to say something else. I've got my stuff together. We'll do a pretty good job, but now and again, I'm not happy as the business owner because it goes quiet on occasion. I don't know how to attract the crowd back.
This is where your lead generation, you've got your secondary, that safety net, where they've completed some entry forms, or you QR coded them. You then announce your winner, and so in those quiet times, you're announcing the winner, bringing them back. When they're entering the competition, you're letting them know that you're drawing during the show. Keep their phones handy because you're going to call them. Sometimes we could have them announced, and it just brings back a whole new energy to your stand, because of course busy makes busy, and then when the energy comes back, you start to make more bookings.
All right.
And there's one other thing that you should be doing. Well, on those let's say you haven't done your due diligence, and there are days when are traditionally not as busy. Say it's a 2 or 3 day event. Part of the due diligence is to find out what the normal traffic numbers are per day, whether the mornings are busy or the afternoons are busy, and then plan as an owner to be there when it's not so busy, because that's the perfect time to talk to other stall owners.
If it is, let's say we have three people on stand and it just goes a bit quiet because it's quiet, well then at least one of us should be networking with other stand owners to see for potential alliances.
Yeah. Now, a lot of them won't have time to meet with you, but it's that time where you get to introduce them. Don't forget, everyone is there spending money to attract clients. We're pretty much all trying to attract the same clients. So most of those people are really interested in cross-promoting and building some sort of a relationship. So it's more about meeting them and making a time in the future to have a phone call or to have a conversation. So you've got two things happening. You've got the competition that's pulling people in, your team's there, and then trying to meet other people that perhaps you'd like to work with who are also exhibiting. So your question before, you're a solopreneur. When I coach a lot of solopreneurs, and the best people to work on the stand seem to be some of your raving fans. So as an entrepreneur, asking some of your clients if they would come and be part of this and help promote it. There's lots of people that, if they really are your raving fan, want to help. And they're great because they've been through the experience. They talk about what this has done for them, how much it's meant to them, and it's coming from the same level as the people that are inquiring. and they do really well on the stand.
So, Steve, how would you pay them? Would you pay them, with money to spend on their next experience, or would you actually pay them like you would pay a staff member, or how would you go about that?
I would pay them as I would a staff member. They would get a base rate and then a certain amount of money for every booking. And everyone's, costs are different, so people have to weigh all that up. But I like to reward people that do well. And really, the money's not in the session fee or the money that we're making on the stand. The money is really in once that client comes in. And so when we're selling to them, so, there's been smaller expos where the people have worked purely for the booking, like Brad was saying. They would keep the booking, and it really wasn't costing me anything as far as staff goes, much, because most people want a base rate.
So, Brad, how would you measure return on investment on that activity? Like, would you do it the same way as we teach to measure your return on investment on your digital marketing? Like, was it exactly the same sort of criteria of how many bookings I got? What was the sales value from that versus what was the cost of being there?
Yeah, it's just the same simple ROI calculation. So, what was the revenue generated? What was the cost of being there? What is that as a percentage? Look at how many leads are generated, how many bookings are generated. What was my cost per lead? What was my cost per booking? The other factor, which is an interesting one to actually, it's quite hard to see if it's worth it, is time. It's just how much physical time you spent there generating the leads, because at the same time you're generating leads and bookings, was that more cost effective? Was, sitting at home and running a Facebook ad and phoning leads, is that more cost effective than going to run an expo? So sometimes that's, because the ROI might be fantastic, but then when you look at time invested, then you might be better off doing something else.
And don't forget to factor in closing down the studio for a day or two. So sometimes, people think, it's going to cost me this much because that's what the expo's charging. But shutting down the studio for a day or two of a busy day's trade is also a cost.
Steve, we were hardcore. We only did expos on Sundays. No day off. Or if we did an expo on Saturday, we'd open the Sunday and work. There's no days off in my household, I tell you.
Well, when I ran my studios, that was 7 days, so there was no day to sort of compensate or make up for that. So, but I mean, that's where if you do have raving fans and you're bringing clients to come and help you, the studio can still run and hum while the expo is running. So, we've got to factor all those costs into running the stand.
It's like, I've just had a thought here. I'm going to go off on one here, but I suppose we're near the end of the podcast, so I'm allowed. Because I was just thinking then that, I might have been slave labor, being a child in a family business, you're essentially slave labor. Farmers have loads of children, don't they? Because like the kids work in the land. And then I thought, well, who else do I know that's had loads of kids? It's Ronan. Was that way you did it, Ronan? Did you have lots of kids so you could throw them into the business and be slave labor for you? Like Jonathan's currently actually doing real work, and right now while we're discussing, expos and having fun on a podcast. So it's worked for you.
There you go. Hey, you answered it. You did a round on it. You asked the question and answered it in one go.
You were out of bed and back in bed out of bed by 7, back in bed by 8 o'clock. How was that slave labor?
You
were away for an hour.
Yeah, interrupts. Yeah.
You would have been up anyway, surely.
No, those are the days where I could literally sleep until 1 p.m. and it was just glorious. It was wonderful. I can't do that anymore. I'm up late. I'm up. It's 9 a.m. That's the lane. I can't. My body can't physically sleep any longer. It's gone.
Know the feeling.
So, all of you who are listening to this podcast and now you want to join this mentor team, including Janine and all of our members in Inner Circle, make sure you visit the differencemakerrevolution.com, click on that Inner Circle and apply to join. And you can join the winning team that are the Difference Maker Inner Circle members. So, we'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.